In a field outside Dayton, Cresco Labs celebrated winning a lucrative license to legally grow medical marijuana in Ohio. Among those at the groundbreaking, Chris Schrimpf, who's listed on the official Department of Commerce application as having a 4.45% share in Cresco Labs, Ohio. His brother Mike Schrimpf has a 3.95% share. If Chris looks familiar, he should. He's one of the many politically connected people who are listed as shareholders in companies who competed to grow marijuana in Ohio. Chris Schrimpf was a senior communications advisor for Ohio Governor John Kasich's presidential campaign. His brother was Kasich's campaign communications director. After numerous calls and emails to the Schrimpf brothers asking whether political connections influenced the outcome, a public relations advisor to Cresco called me, telling me that the brothers have referred all my questions to the company and that the Schrimpfs would not be commenting. Meanwhile, the co-founder of Cresco Labs, Charlie Bechtel, who celebrated Cresco's victory in December,
this is a big day for the patients in Ohio, for the state
did
of Ohio,
send me a
for
statement to answer my question. We were successful because of our team's experience winning merit-based applications and running award-winning cultivation facilities in 4 other states, he wrote, adding, politics played no part in this very rigorous application process. But even as that groundbreaking was happening, Ohio's Attorney General Mike Duane noted how many politically connected people in Ohio were listed as owners.
You know, it just doesn't look good. Does not look good at all.
Duane called it a political feeding frenzy.
You know, every lobbyist, every person around there, you know, has got some piece of the action.
I smell a few rats. I think someone left the back door open inside our administration.
Jimmy Gould contends that he and his company, Canasend Ohio, faced a flawed process that was stacked against them. But even Canasend Ohio had 3 politically connected shareholders with close connections to the governor on its application.
I was warned not to go into partnership with the government. I was told point blank by many people, you will not get a fair shake.
Gould and 5 other companies filed this lawsuit against the state. 60 other companies so far are appealing. Meanwhile, the state auditor confirms Commerce is only now beginning to cooperate. Is Commerce cooperating in the true sense?
Since Friday, the cooperation has been exemplary.
What about before Friday?
Less than exemplary.
And State Auditor Dave Yost confirms his most difficult challenge so far is a lack of documents that are so crucial in figuring out exactly what went wrong. By the way, Jimmy Gould concedes he needed to have some owners with political ties. In his case, he says they were instrumental in passing the law that brought medical marijuana to Ohio. And Gould added he was told without those names his application, quote, would not work. Look, it's next to impossible to get the state auditor to talk about a continuing investigation, let alone the highest profile case in Ohio right now. But that's exactly what he did. While it's not clear yet whether Ohio's epic failure of medical marijuana was a mistake or something more, Yost is already telling me the licensing process was so bad it may change the way Ohio handles all future contracts. How concerned are you about what is happening here?
You know, I'm concerned anytime the government doesn't do its job.
Ohio Auditor Dave Yost is at the tip of a spear, leading the investigation into what went wrong with Ohio's process of picking who will grow medical marijuana.
So they got into people's applications. They knew exactly who they were looking at.
On Friday, Jimmy Gould, co-owner of Canasend Ohio, which didn't get a license and is now suing the state, laid out a laundry list of alleged wrongdoing and unfair scoring. And he made it clear he thinks his company was targeted.
I'm asked the question repeatedly whether or not we were a target to be excluded from getting a license. I can answer this question, and I'll answer it very directly. There's no question in my mind that we were.
You called it an epic fail and shoddy. Do you believe
that in the end is what we're dealing with?
Well, sure. I mean, you can't look at the record to this point and conclude that this was a success.
That record, as Yost noted in this February 21st letter to the Director of Commerce, includes a convicted drug dealer who played an integral part in designing the process, as well as a basic scoring error impacting 10 applications.
Looks at the very least like this was flawed enough that there wasn't a fair shake for everybody. And at the worst, we may be in a situation where none of us want to think about happening, but the government may have been in a position where a thumb was on the scale somewhere.
Are you concerned that it may lead into criminality?
So look, we're just like a police agency. We don't have the ability to prosecute a case. All we can do is the same thing that the city police department can do, which is take the prosecution package down to the county prosecutor and say, here's what we think happened, here's the evidence, and then they get to evaluate it.
While that's a long way off, Yost says wherever this investigation takes him, he already wants to develop a process to make sure the mistakes made in the marijuana program never happen anywhere in Ohio again.
Because I don't ever want to see a group of Ohioans held hostage to a bad process like this again.
February 24th, 4 people from Cincinnati, Darren Elliott, Ian Overton, Stephanie Kidwell, and Amanda Meyer, are about to be arrested by troopers on I-475 near Toledo after they were stopped for speeding.
I'd like everyone put their hands up on the seats for me.
Inside the car, troopers find more than 10 pounds of marijuana-based product purchased just hours before from a dispensary in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The people in the car inform troopers the marijuana is medicine. And they try to show their medical marijuana cards.
I have a card. Okay.
Issued by this Toledo doctor.
We were operating under the assumption that the law was on our side.
The troopers arrest them anyway.
But that's not legal in Ohio.
The matter is up today for arraignment.
All 4 now face multiple felony counts of possession and trafficking in marijuana and hashish, which is difficult for Darren Elliott, one of the 4 charged, to comprehend.
Next thing we know, we get things in the mail indicted on charges, and we're facing 33 years in prison.
What Darren and the others relied on is something called the affirmative defense. Simply speaking, that means if Darren and the others adhered to the guidelines of the new law, there should be no legal consequences. But when it comes to this law, like so many others here at the Ohio State House, it's never quite that simple.
The bill's just the framework, so if you fit within the framework, you could apply affirmative defense.
State Senator David Burke, a pharmacist who was one of the lead legislators behind Ohio's medical marijuana law, stated in October of 2016, willing physicians are in the free and clear to recommend cannabis and would be covered by affirmative defense. But when I found Senator Burke just days ago in the hallway of the State House, he told me only courts can decide if you're truly covered.
Not the judicial branch. You'd have to look at what the law says and apply affirmative defense into the bill the way it's written.
Are you worried about the confusion this creates?
No.
What about the people who need it and are using it?
Well, again, looking at affirmative defense, if you apply the bill to your affirmative defense, the court would have to decide whether or not you fit in those parameters.
So according to lawmakers, the case of the 4 from Cincinnati is where it belongs, even if a doctor,
No one else is questioning what we do except this court on this day.
and his patients
They need a free to leave.
thought medical marijuana cards
I have a card.
were enough to cover them.
You have right, remain silent, and you say
Ironically, this case could be decided after September. That's when the state medical marijuana program is scheduled to officially begin, which means everyone with a medical marijuana card issued by the state at that point will not have to use any defense at all. I'll tell you what happens next. I'm Duane Pohlman, Local 12.
In the quiet northwestern Ohio village of Rockford, population 1,200, corn is king. But marijuana is now making its mark here too. Thanks to 16 drug-related charges filed against Glenn Keeling and 15 charges filed against his wife, Peggy Kimmel.
They've told us that we're criminals.
Are you criminals?
No.
Are you bad people?
No.
It all began at the couple's home on October 31st.
Halloween night.
Someone knocks and you open it, right?
Yeah, I did.
What'd you see?
About 11 cops.
Those officers had a warrant to search for drugs.
Did they say what they were doing here?
They were here to take my drugs and guns and anything else that I had in the house that I wasn't supposed to.
Were you shocked?
I was.
Glenn suffers from Crohn's disease, and his doctor recommended marijuana as the best medicine.
Did it help you?
Yes. I was able to eat better. I had more of an appetite. I was able to get out of bed.
So when Rockford police officers and Mercer County Sheriff's deputies came, Glenn says he led them straight to his marijuana.
So I just gave them everything. It was like, well, here's everything I have.
But when he tried to show his medical marijuana card issued by an Ohio doctor, it didn't matter.
I said, well, I have a medical card for what I have. And he says, well, there's no medical program in Ohio. I don't care about your card.
They didn't care about Peggy's card issued by the same doctor either.
I said, what is going on? I don't understand.
Peggy suffers from multiple sclerosis. The marijuana, she says, was a miracle medicine.
I can walk without using a cane or a walker.
Recommended by a doctor, marijuana had replaced countless pills, shots, and other pharmaceuticals that a biopsy revealed were harming Peggy's liver.
I was scared to death because I thought if you don't have a liver, you'd just die.
Peggy's 14-year-old daughter, Tina, watched as marijuana helped her mom improve.
My mom could walk.
Tina was awakened by police. That night, they came into her home.
What do you think about all the police coming in and doing this?
I was scared. I didn't know what was going on.
Among the charges Peggy and Glenn face, a count of child endangering. Even though Mercer County Child and Family Services stated that the family has many strengths, including a desire to protect Tina and provide for her basic needs when it closed the case.
They feel that she is safer with us than anywhere else.
But safety has been shattered for the entire family. That night, the police came.
I ended up leaving with them.
In cuffs?
Yes, in cuffs.
I reached out to the prosecutor, Matt Fox, to discuss the case. He sent files, but declined to comment.
All rise.
On June 13th, we were in the Salina courtroom as Peggy and Glenn faced a judge. Prosecutor Fox argued that their bond be conditional on drug testing.
They consume no alcohol or drugs of abuse and subject themselves to random testing.
Peggy's attorney argued marijuana is essential medicine.
Over the past few months, there have been an increasing number of lesions on her brain, and using of the marijuana tends to alleviate some of her suffering.
And in a surprise move, the judge agreed, issuing bond conditions that include use of medical marijuana. Now, paperwork is posted at the same door police walk through on Halloween night to advise anyone who enters that Peggy and Glenn are legally using medical marijuana, even though they're still facing serious charges for doing just that.
If you could say one thing to this prosecutor, what would you say?
I'm sorry that he thinks I'm a criminal. I did not knowingly do anything wrong. I am not a criminal. I am afraid so bad I would not ever break the law on purpose of any kind.